Welcome to episode 31 of After the Breach podcast. We're your hosts, Jeff and Sara, coming to you from Friday Harbor in San Juan Island, Washington.
In San Juan Island?
Yes, it's
Nice.
in and on.
And on. Around.
And we've got a great episode. We wanted to catch everybody up on our latest sightings because it's been an epic summer so far, and we actually recorded this episode previously and we're going to have to re-record it because...
Which is what we're doing now.
Which is what we're doing right now. At the end of a very long day, we've been out on the water all day today and all day most days. But we had to re-record this because so much has happened since we recorded it the first time 2 weeks ago that it just didn't seem relevant anymore. And today was today's a good place to start because it's
kind of a good sum up day for the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's a sum up day, and there was something about today that was just, it captures how things go out here. So you were out earlier than I was. There was a report that came out of killer whales that were up in the Strait of Georgia. Not from a boat. It wasn't that a whale watching boat saw them. It was somebody else saw them and reported them. But it was at 9 o'clock in the morning before anybody was up there. And you were out about an hour and a half ahead of me. And you were on your way up to check that out. And what happened, Sara?
Yeah, so we were heading that way. I kind of had a sneaky suspicion they might be Southern residents. Now I actually don't think they were. I think we've talked about that. I don't really think that particular sighting was residents, but I got over to, Skipjack Island and Boundary Pass, and right as I saw a blow along the Saturna Island shoreline, like several miles ahead of me, a passenger saw a blow off our starboard side. And so we stopped, and it was J-Pod.
Very nice.
Well, I mean, it's tough. It's always tough. And I told this to my passengers. Because of regulations right now, we really can't watch Southern residents from the water. And we were in the U.S., and they were very, very spread out and cruising really fast. So we just kind of sat there. The first whale we saw, the closest whale we saw was even, outside half a mile, but was J39 Mako, and he was booking it. He was probably doing, 10, 11 knots towards turn point. And he did a couple breaches in the distance, like as he was going away. And so we just kind of sat there because everybody else was on the Canadian side, like, a couple miles to the north of us. And so we just kind of watched him stream by and breach in the distance. We didn't really, you don't see much at that point, and you just see the big splashes. But, people saw him with their binoculars.
I think in certain situations, watching Southern residents from half a mile or so can be really, really cool. I had a trip last week. We were coming back from watching some big killer whales, and on our way back, we had this sunset lighting, and somebody pointed out that they saw killer whales, and I don't think it was all of J-Pod, but it was a big group of J-Pod, and we just stopped. We were over a half a mile away, and I shut down. You could hear them blow. You could hear their blows, and they were in a tight group, and you could see the backlit blows and the sunset lighting, and we just sat there with the motors off and watched them get further and further away. It was really incredibly beautiful. And I think in those circumstances, you can get really good views of them that aren't close, but they're, I think, more powerful that they're not. But I also know that in certain situations, it can be tough to watch Southern residents as opposed to bigs.
Yeah, and there's always like this appreciation for seeing them from my perspective, right? Because just it's so rare,
Yeah, well, and these are the whales you grew up with.
Yeah, and so I really do appreciate seeing them, and it also is incredibly hard for me. And we actually talked about this with our passengers today, as we were sitting, a mile away watching these whales kind of stream past, how it's really a powerful platform, right? Responsible, professional ecotourism, whale watching done correctly is a powerful tool, and it's a powerful platform to introduce people to whales and create advocates for the whales, for the ecosystem, for salmon, for anything and everything that it touches, which is a ton. And so I do feel a bit of sadness sometimes. But today was one of those beautiful moments where we had a group of teachers on board too that were appreciative of even viewing these whales from quite far away and learning about that aspect. And then, of course, the sentinel effect, which is important as well, very vitally important, I think. So yes, I do appreciate seeing them regardless of the new regulations, but it is bittersweet too.
Yep. No, I totally get it. It's it's funny about today. I saw the reports that you had found J-Pod coming down Boundary Pass, and at this point, I'm getting off the dock, and I want to go check out that report, but I have to get around J-Pod to be able to get up to the Strait of Georgia.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and I heard they were coming really fast, and I heard another whale watching boat and I could tell where he was, and he said he wasn't going to be able to make it up there because he ran into J-Pod and he had to stop.
Not literally, just for those people.
Yes,
like
right.
Nobody was watching within a half a mile.
Right. He was on his way to go up to check out that report, and his path was going to intersect with J-Pod, and so when he saw them, he stopped. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go super wide around where they are headed, and I can hear they're going fast, but I've got time. And I go super wide, way out, like much longer path to get up to check out this report. This report at this point is like 3.5 to 4 hours old. And for those of you who are not as familiar, the trail starts going cold really after 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So a 3 to 4 hour old report, you're basically saying, okay, well, the whales could be potentially.
There were whales around here.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, they could be within a 20 to 25 mile radius of where that report was potentially. And that's a big area.
Right.
So I went wide and it didn't matter. They were coming, J-Pod was coming down so fast down Boundary Pass that I still ended up having to stop. And we talked to our passengers. At this point, we had, I think it was the leading group. There were 7 or 8 of them pretty tight together and breaching as they were going down. We watched from a good solid half a mile plus for about 5 minutes. And then I was like, all right, we got to go because I want to check out this report.
Sure.
And at that point, we're not only is the trail cold, but now we're seeing how fast J-Pod is moving. And we're thinking that report was probably J-Pod.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think at that point, there were a lot of people that were starting to give up on even going up there.
Mm-hmm.
April was out, and she was basically like, hey, I got to go find something. Because by the time when she went up, J-Pod wasn't down there yet. Nobody had found them, so she didn't even have the option of viewing at half a mile.
Right.
And so she was going up to an area where we've been seeing, not every day, but there have been reports a lot of days of humpbacks.
Yeah, they're probably up there every day.
Yeah. And so she was up there, and I said, hey, I'm going to head your way and just kind of take it slow up the shoreline in case that report was actually a different group of whales and not J-Pod, and just in case they went this way, and just in case they went this way really, really, really slowly, and maybe I will find them.
Well, and the tide was working in your favor, too.
For sure.
Right, because any whales going that direction would have been very slowed with that steep ebb.
This is very true. And which is, I think, more often than not, we do see bigs going against the tide. I think we're used to seeing southern residents going with the tide. I think the bigs, not always, certainly not always, and nothing is always, nothing is absolute. But I think we see them go against the tide quite a bit.
My love for whales is absolute.
Okay. Such a dork. And so I ended up running into, not literally, so we're on our way up to humpbacks. I'm actually on the radio with April telling her that I'm 10 miles out and I want to know how long she's going to be there because I want to keep going slowly up the shoreline. And as I'm talking to her, I said, I have killer whales here. And I saw one male killer whale surface and then another. And then all of a sudden I saw a huge group surface, and they were surfacing together, and like some were on their sides and some were tail slapping. And then I saw 3 or 4 big males further up.
And you were like, oh no.
Right. My first thought is,
That was my first thought when I heard that you found 15 to 20 killer whales up there.
Yeah. I'm like, there are at least 15 or 20 here, and I'm seeing the big males. I'm like, I think my first thought was this is K-Pod.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, everybody hang on. Let me see who we have here. And then I saw the first whale that I saw that looked really familiar was 65A2 and 65A3. And then I saw...
both boys are pretty distinct.
Yeah. And then I saw a big, wide base of a dorsal fin.
A girl.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her for years.
I didn't know at the time, in the moment, but it turned out to be 37A1. And basically what really, before I had clicked with 65A2 and 3 of knowing that was definitely them, I was just kind of scanning all the different dorsal fins, and I was seeing notches. And I'm like, there are way too many notches here for these to be southern residents. These are definitely bigs. They were all mixed together except for, so the 49As minus Jude, minus 49A2, they were all together. They were tight to shore. Then right offshore of them was a huge group. And then offshore of them was, turned out to be 65A2 and 65B1 cousins. Moms or sisters. 20-year-old boy playing with his 13-year-old cousin. And it was tough to get IDs on who was there because I kept seeing some whales that I could ID, but like they were all mixed in. So it's like, okay, are they here or is their whole family here? And how many are actually here? And it was tough, but it was also just epic to watch. You know, I started piecing together IDs, and then you ended up on your second trip. You were up there, and you got confirmation on the IDs. At the end, there were 33 bigs.
At least.
In how many families are we talking about? Or at least even partial, whether they're complete. And do we know was 65A5?
I didn't see him.
Okay. I would have been kind of surprised if he was in the mix with that many whales.
Yeah, so my final list of families.
It's basically almost every family that we've been seeing here over the last month. Not together, all separately.
Right. Was the T36A1s with the T46B1s, which they've been traveling
together. For some time.
T37A1 and T37A3, the siblings, not with the rest of their family. T49As, like you mentioned, without Jude. T49A2, T65As. Indy was not there, but Amir was present. T65A3 was present. The T65Bs, the T75Bs, the T99s. And as I'm like looking at all these whales and other whales are coming up, and then 46B2, T46B2 popped up, and I'm like, oh, what? With her calf. And I honestly don't know if the rest of the T46Bs were there. I didn't see anybody that like stood out.
And there may have
I wouldn't
been
be
other
shocked,
groups
right?
Not far away.
Oh, no, for sure. Like, so we had the big group, and they were like kind of in 3 different groups. And I would be shocked if there weren't more whales like further up Valdez Island, however you pronounce it, or offshore.
Yeah, I think for sure. And it's just really interesting. Like, why now? What are they doing? What's the purpose that they're all getting together right? Like in this big of a group, we don't see groups this big very often. It's really cool to see, and they were very social all day. Very, very vocal. Some of the best vocals, if not the best vocals I've ever heard in my life. And we'll play a clip for you right now. absolutely amazing. It was cool to sit there with the boat shut down and the hydrophone in the water, and it was overwhelming how loud and how many whales were vocalizing simultaneously.
And from what I heard, it didn't happen while I was up there. People were hearing vocals without a hydrophone, like through the hull of the boats and at the surface, I'm assuming?
Absolutely. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And we had that too on a night about a week ago. It was, of course, coincided with your day off.
Of course.
And it was a
I'm
trip.
not shocked.
And it was a trip that I had asked you to ride along on.
Oh, yes, my first day off in 2 weeks.
Yes, and I said, hey, no pressure, but if you want to ride along, it'd be great to have you out just so you can enjoy the whales. And I was so bummed out. I was saying this on the tour. I was so bummed out that you weren't there. But I also get, like, you need days off the water. But I was so bummed out that you weren't there to share.
If I had been there, you wouldn't have gotten that.
So we had the 36A1s, a 13-year-old with her first offspring, and she left, the 13-year-old left her mom and siblings to go cruise along with the 46B1s. And both of those groups were there today, but over the last few weeks, they've been pretty inseparable. And that night they were with 49C, an independent male, very cool independent male, who I saw. He had been with them for a while, and all of those whales were very vocal. So we had surface vocals for over an hour with them, very breachy, very social. I got some video that
You also
I'll
had
share.
the T23Ds and T23 with that group.
That's right. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, even though I wasn't there.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, you're my database, and I was bummed you weren't there.
I was bummed.
But that was an epic recent sighting. And then a few days later, we had T49C by himself, and we were by ourselves, and he was inter-island. He was traveling kind of back and forth in a channel between Orcas Island and Shaw Island. And he was going, it was really cool. He went into a bay, and he started playing with buoys.
Oh, yeah. I had a passenger on this morning who was on that trip.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It was amazing because so there was a bay full of these buoys, and some of them were white, some of them were orange. He wouldn't touch the orange ones, but he was grabbing all the white ones, including at one point he had two at a time.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, and it's cool. You just sit there and you're watching the buoys, and then all of a sudden you see one disappear. It goes under, and it's down there for 3 minutes, and all of a sudden, a ways away, bing, it pops up, and then he comes up, and you just wonder, like, what is it that is play?
I actually wonder how many times people go out and think, "Oh, someone stole my crab pot,
right,
or my prawn pot, or whatever it is," and it was actually just a whale like moving it.
Well, I mean, we saw that with 49C and his nephew 49A2 in Friday Harbor last year, and they were grabbing crab pots and they were moving them all the way across the harbor.
Yeah, and I mean, like, honestly, if they're fully loaded, like if they've got stuff in them, I mean, even if not, and they drop them in deeper water, that line is only like 40 feet long, so it's going to sink and you're never going to find it again.
Do you think they're trying to free whatever's in there?
No. No, I don't.
That's another. We can reference
demystify
episode 30 on that one. And then speaking of, we had an experience. This was on one of your days off too. This was
of course
recently.
It was.
No, this was we had talked about this where it's almost like the whales seem like they don't want to be watched, and they're very difficult doing long dives, super spread out, multi-directional, and we actually left. And then came back later when they were a little bit easier to watch. And we talk about, like, oh, you can tell when they don't want to be watched. And that is something that is so human-centric that it really comes down to they have something going on underwater that they're doing that has absolutely nothing to do with us. It's just that in that moment, whatever they're doing, it makes it more difficult for us to get a good whale watching experience.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
with us whatsoever. But
And I've said it. We've all said it, right? Like, oh, we can tell, kind of when it really does not have anything to do with us, I don't think.
yeah, exactly. But let's get back to today.
Okay, yeah.
Because this was, and I am worried that like we're not going to see any of those whales. And this happens sometimes when we have these huge groups, and then the next day it's like, oh, we don't have anybody. But hopefully we will have some of these. They won't stay together like this. There
are other whales, Jeff. Even if none of those are around, there will be.
But I like these
somebody
whales.
else. I know they're great whales. Great.
But it was such an amazing experience. It's so rare, and I could have stayed. It was shocking that I actually got back to the dock only 20 minutes late.
I was only 20 minutes late.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It was a long run up there.
It is a long run up there.
We did 90 miles round trip.
So worth it. So worth it. So it's almost every group that we've been seeing, and we've been seeing whales between killer whales and humpback whales. I don't have the exact numbers yet for June, but combined all of our trips in May and all of our trips in June, you're well over 100 trips, probably closer to 150 trips in those 2 months. And we had one trip in May and one trip in June that didn't see whales.
Wow.
And that's it. And
were they both mine?
No, one was yours, one was mine.
Oh.
You were May, I was June.
Okay, all right.
But we have seen whales on every single trip since June 2nd. And today is the 26th.
Nice.
And I'm sorry for you and I who are driving tomorrow. We'll see if I just jinxed
No,
us.
we're gonna find something. I'm very confident.
But it's been incredible, and even the humpbacks. The other day found Tempest.
We had humpbacks tonight.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Yesterday found Tempest with a calf, and this was pretty cool because I wasn't sure if we had heard that Tempest had a calf.
Tempest the humpback whale?
Tempest the humpback whale.
Because there's a Tempest, the killer whale.
Yeah, no, this is Tempest the humpback whale.
Just to be clear.
And I wasn't sure. And so I sent a text to Tasley, and then I got a text from Gary and Gary Sutton, who's been on our podcast, and Tasley has been on our podcast with the humpback comeback. And apparently there was some photogrammetry done on Tempest that they suspected that she was pregnant. And then there was a report of that she had a calf off Tofino when she was sighted earlier this spring.
Oh.
But there was no confirmation until yesterday.
Oh, cool.
When we saw her with her calf. So
awesome.
that was very, very
That's really cool.
And you had the 33 killer whales tonight. And how many humpbacks?
Well, we had 2 that were right in with the killer whales.
So I haven't, I heard murmurings about this and saw a couple mentions in the reports, but I haven't heard the details yet, and I really want to hear about this.
Yeah, it was weird.
Not something you see every day.
Right. So I got on scene. The killer whales were milling right outside Porlier Pass. There were humpbacks in the distance. As we were coming through the pass, we could see blows and a breach, but there were no humpback whales in the immediate vicinity that we could see. So we get on scene with the killer whales, and they're just, like you said, they were super social, as they had been earlier in the day. And I was really just kind of focused on trying to figure out who all was there.
It's tough when they're all mixed together, right?
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun puzzle, to be honest.
Sure.
And then I would say within about 5 to 10 minutes, here comes this humpback whale. Surfaced a couple 100 yards away from the killer whales, aiming straight for them. And then went down, and it didn't fluke, it wasn't diving. It was stay down for a little while, but the next time it came up right in the middle of surfaced alongside the killer whales as they were kind of different groups were converging, and then rolled and was had its pec fin up and part of its fluke up, and it stayed the entire rest of the time.
Is this right? Is this oblivious? Is this?
I think it was no. It made a purpose.
How could they not know? And
purposefully came in.
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know what the purpose was, but yeah. So this humpback whale came in, and then as we were getting ready to like kind of make our way up, because it was a long run up there, another humpback whale came in. So there were two humpback whales side by side, intimate amongst all of these killer whales. And the fascinating thing to me, Jeff, was when we first got on scene and the killer whales were super social, the humpback whales hadn't come in yet. I dropped a hydrophone, and you had heard the vocals as well, and we played that clip from earlier. Insane. It was like a cacophony of killer whale vocals. It was just like they were talking all over each other. I dropped the hydrophone as soon as that first humpback whale came in, like maybe a couple minutes after it came in, because I thought, oh, this might be interesting to like hear the vocals when a humpback whale comes in. Maybe the humpback whale's vocalizing. Who knows? Dead silence.
That is so incredible.
Nothing.
What
from either of them that I could hear.
I will never know, but like, what is going on in their minds? So these are animals that get attacked by killer whales, mostly when they're calves.
Yeah. But, and I said this on the radio to Trevor, who was up there. I was like, generally speaking, if I was a humpback whale, I'm not going to be too, an adult humpback whale, I'm not going to be too plussed about coming into a group of big killer whales up here. Like, 5 killer whales, no big deal. I would think twice about coming into a group of 30 plus killer whales. Even if they don't know what they're doing, that's quite a few.
That's what I'm wondering. Is this a kind of a statement like, hey, I don't sweat you. It is so
Come
interesting.
at me, bro.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
It's just, right. It's like, keeping eye contact with a dog or a shark or something like that. Like, is this just hey,
I know you're here.
I know you're here and I'm not afraid.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
it's putting a human lens on it, Jeff.
I know we're
going to do demystifying humpback whales next.
I would have loved to have seen that. It's so fascinating to wonder what's going on. The one possibility of them just not being aware that each other is there is doesn't seem plausible.
No, absolutely. They seemed aware of each other.
I mean, I can't imagine how could they not be? Right. Like, I'm aware that you're in this room, and how could they not be aware that they're in the same area?
Well, I got some video and some photos. We'll see if any of it turned out, but
well, we'll definitely share. I think I may have gotten some video, got the recording of the vocals. We'll post stuff in the show notes. I will post anything also from any of these other encounters that we've been talking about.
And we had another cool encounter recently.
We did.
T-51.
I was not there.
Oh, you never saw him?
I have never seen. I think I have.
No, you have.
Years ago, but I was not.
Absolutely, you have. It was one of your days off.
Yeah, I missed T-51.
Well, I just saw him one day. Nope, 2 days. I take that back. Saw him 2 days. Very briefly one day, but we had him one evening with the T-36A1s and T-46B1s up by Susha.
Oh, so that's a cool group.
And it was actually a really interesting encounter as well. One, kind of right up there with the humpbacks from tonight. So it was an evening trip later in the day. I was actually with killer whales here in San Juan Channel and was just holding until someone came. And then I was going to go out to Susha and see this group. So we hadn't seen T-51 earlier in the day, and he had been spotted. And just to kind of throw out there, T-51 is one of the 2 whales alongside T-49A2 that was stuck in Barnes Lake up in Kaufman Cove. And we talked to Jared Towers about that on an earlier episode. I believe it was episode 19.
Very good. I'm looking at it right now. It's episode 19,
All
Killer
right.
Whale Rescue. And T-51 and 49A2.
So this is his first time that I'm aware of him being down here since that happened last August. So it was really cool to see him. I actually haven't seen him in a few years, so really cool. So we get out there to Susha Island, and one thing is, so I come out of the harbor. It had been a morning, Jeff. It was one of those mornings where we got out. I got on my first group of whales, saw them twice, and then they disappeared. We lost them. Like 4 boats lost these whales. So then I, went to another group of whales, and as I was coming on scene, they split, and one half of this group, I lost them. Like I, was with another group, so it was fine. So my first trip lost 2 groups of whales. Not my best day. So I get out the harbor on my second trip, and here are these 2 groups of whales, half of which I had lost on an earlier trip right outside the harbor. And they are hunting a porpoise as one of them is hunting a porpoise as I'm getting out of the harbor. So I go over to that group, and they're done by the time I get there. And as I'm getting dialed in on seeing the other group on the other side of the channel hunts a porpoise.
Of course.
So anyway, but really, like, we got some nice looks with the it was the T-75Bs and the T-77s. Pass them off to another boat and head out to Salish Island. And as we're getting on scene, I hear Alan calling on the radio. Oh, they're on a porpoise hunt. And I was like, oh, of course they are, because it's porpoise hunting day, and I'm perpetually 15 minutes late. But we get out there, so it's T-36A1s, T-46B1s, T-51 at the mouth of the bay in Susha, the big bay.
Echo Bay.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't really a hunt, Jeff. The whales were circling, and the porpoise was circling with the whales, like just ahead of them. It was really slow, really low energy. There was no breaching, no tail slapping, and they would go on these long, like 3 to 4 minute dives, not long, but longer dives. And then they'd come up, and the porpoise would come up, and they would just kind of follow it around in circles. And this continued for like 35, 40 minutes. Wow. Alan actually left, and he was like, let me know what happens. And, about 15 minutes later.
I can guess what happens.
I called him, and I said, Alan, they let the porpoise go.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Yeah. They just finally left, and the porpoise swam away, and they swam away.
That's fast. That's a cool encounter. I would never have guessed that they would have given up on that, or that they didn't kill it like fast.
Yeah. So T-51 was like off doing his own thing, like in the periphery of the group. As
the independent males often do.
I don't even want to say hunting this porpoise, following around this porpoise,
teasing
this porpoise. I don't know what they were doing, but once they left the porpoise, they all grouped up together and went north of Susha and kind of continued along. And it was really a lovely encounter with those, 6 whales.
That's really cool. Yeah, I would love to see T-51, especially after the Barnes Lake incident.
He's really a cool whale.
Yeah, I don't really have any recollection of when I saw him, but it was years ago. I know you probably know exactly.
It was in Boundary Pass by Peytos Island. He was with the T-37As.
I don't know how you know all that. It is crazy how you know every encounter I've had with every whale.
Well, because it was my encounter too. I was there with you.
Yeah, but you know encounters of mine that you weren't with me.
Well, not all of them, but some.
So who else have we been seeing? We did see Big Mama. She was around for a minute.
Yeah, the T-123s have been around. The T-46Bs have been around. You saw the rest of the T-37As just the other day.
Yeah, they were with the...
I haven't seen them for a while.
Yeah, and they did see them. And the 123s have been around quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. And they've been kind of up in Howe Sound.
Yeah.
With T-86A3 and her calf.
Yep. And we went all the way. We didn't go to Howe Sound, but we went to Vancouver
close.
A couple days ago.
Yeah.
We went. I think that was another 90-plus mile round trip.
Yeah.
That was cool. Beautiful. At one point, we were so far or so close to the city of Vancouver that at one point, April could see I was making a face because I'm like, what is that? Like, part of me was thinking, like, are we about to blow a motor? Because you could hear this weird sound coming from the motor, or I thought it was from the motor, and the shutter on the boat. And April's like, there's a plane taking off from Vancouver Airport. I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah. Right in the flight path.
Yeah.
I think I didn't get one with the whales, but I got a plane taking off and coming over.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's always a cool trip when we go up there and have the skyline and the airport in the background.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who else we've had around. I mean, that big group from today
was pretty much everybody.
Encompassed who's been around lately.
Well, I did see the 69s were back in today. They were out by Victoria.
Oh, your favorite whales, the T-34s and T-37s. They've been around?
Yes. They I used to love the 34s and 37s.
You'll love them again one day.
I hope so, but
you will.
I had a very difficult trip with them. They were very spread out, doing long dives, and I was late in my trip.
Yeah, it's tough. When they're not great, there's no middle ground with them. I feel like when my encounters, they're either really tough to watch or they're really great to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And we were very close to the end of our tour. We had not seen whales yet. We had a choice of 2 different groups, and I made the wrong choice.
Well, I don't know that I would say it's the wrong choice.
Well, it wasn't the wrong choice, but it was not the right choice. I did extend the tour when we went to the other group, but man, I burned an hour trying to reacquire them.
Yeah, also that area is like a black hole.
It is, but that area is also one of the most epic areas to see.
It can
hunting.
be really epic, and it can also be really, really not.
Yeah, it really was not. Yeah.
Well, we had a nice encounter over there, kind of in that same area, just 3 days ago with the T-65Bs.
The 65Bs, and they were with
123s and 86A3 in our calf.
Yeah, and it was very cool that evening. I went to the 123s and the 86 and 86A3 in calf, and then I finished.
So did
I know you did. I saw you.
I was with you.
I know. I saw you. Then we went to the 65Bs at the end.
Yeah.
And the cool thing was they were angling towards each other like they were going to get back together.
Yeah.
And we're with the 65Bs, and this goes back to slowly traveling against the tide. And
they were moving north but pointed south.
Yeah, they were moving, totally moving north. And if you looked at our tracks on the boat, then you can see that in the 30 minutes that we were with them, we moved about 1.25 miles in the opposite direction that they were traveling. Speaking of watching the tracks on the boat.
I didn't do it.
You didn't do what?
I don't know. Just sounded like a good place to say that.
Well, this reminded me, I didn't have this in my notes for recent encounters, but we did have a special communication sent to me by a humpback mom and calf that I don't think we've talked about on the podcast.
No, we definitely haven't. No.
So Sarah was with me, but not on the same boat. We were out one evening, and we were with Divot, the humpback Divot, and her 2024 calf. And they were just kind of, what seemed to be doing circles and not moving very far. And they were just very chill, and we were having a good night with them. And I looked at the chart plotter to kind of see, like, hey, are we doing circles? Are we directional in any way?
She was being an artist, Jeff.
She
was just trying to be an artist.
She was drawing a picture that I could see on the tracks on the chart plotter that we had been driving. And I called Sarah on the radio, and I said, I think Divot and her calf are trying to communicate with me by drawing pictures. And I told her that the picture that they were drawing, and I will post the picture in the show notes, it really looks like a donkey. And so what did you say to me, Sarah?
I don't remember.
Oh, you said, I think maybe she's calling you an ass.
I think you said that.
No, you said that.
No.
Yes, you absolutely
I said something
that.
else.
No, that is not. You absolutely said that.
I said maybe she's saying you're her knight in shining armor, and it's like a horse that you're riding it on.
I don't remember hearing that at all.
I'm going to stick with this until the day I die, and I hope it's not tomorrow.
I have 2 witnesses.
That does not count. Well, it's just been an epic last few weeks on the water, and
we've got a long way to go for this season.
Even though it's nearly 10 o'clock at night and I'm exhausted, I'm looking forward to seeing what the next couple of weeks hold and the rest of the season, really. Yeah,
that's like what I said. We've got a long way to go. There's still lots of opportunity to get out here. The evening trips have been phenomenal. I mean, they've all been
really
great, but the lighting, it's just every time.
Our photo workshop is coming up, Jeff. We're, I think, full on Saturday and have like maybe 2 or 3 spots left on Sunday. If anyone's interested in coming out all day with us in August, it's August 24th and 25th. We cater lunch, head out all day, see what we can find.
And if you can't make it for our photo workshop, still try and get up here and get out on the water with us.
We'll start all-day tours soon.
And we've got all-day tours, and we're going to be running our half-day tours all the way through
October,
all the way through the end of October into November,
mm-hmm.
and then weekends in November and December. But come on out! This has been an epic year. I think it's
really been amazing.
It's going to stay really good. I think all the way through, especially as we see killer whales every month of the year. But as we get into the fall months, the humpbacks
mm-hmm.
get really epic.
And if you have any ideas on what you'd like to hear on the podcast, if you have questions that have come up while you're listening, if you have topics that you'd like us to address on the second part of Demystifying Whales, because we are going to do a second part to that episode.
Very soon.
And there was a lot of great feedback. So thank you guys for sending that in. The emails and messages we got were awesome. We appreciate that.
And we've got some good episodes coming up, too.
Yeah. So we're really looking forward to it. Bear with us if it's a little off schedule. We're right in the middle of our season, so it does get a little bit busy. But
and we don't really have, Sarah and I don't get off days that coincide with each other. So
no.
We're going to be always recording
late at night
and up early in the morning to fuel the boats.
But thank you guys so much for listening, for all the comments, for the shares, for the reviews. We appreciate all of it. We appreciate you guys as listeners. If you're coming out on the water and you listen to the podcast, let us know. We love to meet you guys. And just like always,
stay safe out there.
Stay safe out there. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of After the Breach podcast. If you've enjoyed it and want to help us out, please share this with your friends, family, and any other whale-loving folks you can think of. We would also love to hear your feedback, so please leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have topics you're interested in and would like to hear on the show, please send us an email. We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can find us on Instagram as @AfterTheBreach and on Facebook as After the Breach Podcast. And if you'd like to go whale watching with us, then come on up to San Juan Island, Washington State. We run tours with Maya's Legacy Whale Watching, departing just steps away from the ferry landing in beautiful downtown Friday Harbor. It's a great destination for a day trip or multiple days and offers some of the best whale and wildlife viewing in the world. We would love to take you out on the water to see the amazing whales we talk about on our podcast. You can book a tour through the company website at www.sjiwhalewatch.com and make sure to mention you're a podcast listener when you book. Thanks again for listening, and remember, stay safe out there.
I might have to put that in there.
Don't include that. No,
that's a northern resident call.
I know.